For 11 years, Marc Marquez has given the same polite non-answer about Valentino Rossi. This week, he stopped pretending. Asked directly whether the two of them could ever repair what broke in 2015, Marquez did not talk about time healing things. He did not leave the door open a crack the way he always has. He shut it, calmly, with no anger in it at all. And that flatness is what makes it land so hard. So what changed inside a rider who spent a decade managing this question carefully? And why did he pick this specific week of all weeks to finally say it out loud? This is not two retired men arguing about an old race. Rossi runs a MotoGP team now, Ducati's official satellite operation, plus an academy that keeps feeding riders onto the grid Marquez has to beat every Sunday. Marquez rides the factory Ducati that supplies Rossi's bikes. They sit inside the same commercial structure, at the same tracks, with the same manufacturer's logo on both sides of a garage wall. So, a personal verdict from either one of them is never only personal. It sets the temperature for everybody paid by either side. And the timing on this one is the part nobody has flagged properly. Because in the same week Marquez was closing that door, Luca Marini was quietly doing something on the other side of it. Marini sat down with the Italian site Moto.it and built his ideal MotoGP rider, category by category, the way the paddock loves to do. Best braking, Joan Mir or Celestino Vietti. Best at changing direction, Maverick Vinales. Best single lap speed, Fabio Quartararo. Best race pace, Francesco Bagnaia. And Marini reached back 2 seasons for it, to the year Pecco was frightening in a race. Best riding style, Pedro Acosta or Ayogura. Most complete rider of the lot, Valentino Rossi. 7 categories, every single one filled, not one of them filled by Marc Marquez. Understand who is saying it. Marini is the rider Honda hired to replace Marquez. He inherited the RC213, V project Marquez walked away from. He lives every weekend with what was built and abandoned there, and he is Rossi's half-brother. He has more direct data on Marc Marquez than almost anyone in the paddock. Handed a blank sheet and asked to assemble a perfect rider, he could not find one single quality worth taking from him. That is not an oversight. Now put the two halves together. Speaking to a British newspaper, Marquez was asked whether reconciliation was still possible after all this time. His answer was 6 words long. It's impossible to find a solution. Then he explained the mechanism behind it. Some things don't depend on just one person. It takes 2 people. For my private life, I don't need him and he doesn't need me. Listen to what that actually is. That is not a man asking for peace and getting refused. That is a man withdrawing the application, and there is history sitting behind that withdrawal that most people have let go of. Back in 2018 at Misano, Marquez reached his hand across a press conference table in front of every camera and offered it. Rossi did not take it. The one handshake since was in Argentina 7 months later, and Rossi offered it. Marquez then added the line that tells you how permanent this is. But I respect what he has achieved. We have both given a lot to MotoGP and to the world of motorsport. We are 2 very different people. Respect the record. Refuse the man. Those are separate filing cabinets now, and he has locked one of them. And, oh yeah, there is one entry on Marini's list I skipped. Asked who is best in the corners, Marini answered with a single word about himself. Me! So that list was never a solemn monument to the all-time greats. It was loose, personal, playful, with room for a joke at his own expense. And even in that mood, with the bar set that low, Marquez still did not get in. This is where it stops being about 2 men. Watch what happens to everyone standing near them. At the German Grand Prix, Marco Bezzecchi broke his collarbone in qualifying and lost the race. Marquez took pole, and he was asked whether Bezzecchi's crash was karma for their earlier contact in Indonesia. Marquez refused the frame, backed Bezzecchi's recovery, and pointed at the gravel trap lip that had already injured other riders. He defended a VR46 Academy rider in public on a weekend that suited him perfectly not to. Now, ask yourself how likely the reverse is. At COTA, Marquez took Fabio Di Giannantonio down in the sprint and collected a penalty for it. And here is the detail that reframes all of it. Rossi has made peace with almost everyone. Jorge Lorenzo, the rival he fought hardest and longest. Max Biaggi. Casey Stoner, who has been a guest at Rossi's ranch. The man is demonstrably capable of putting a war down and walking away from it. Marquez is the single standing exception, so this is not Rossi's temperament, and it is not time failing to do its job. It is a choice, renewed, season after season. Ducati's own team manager, Davide Tardozzi, has said publicly that calling this irreparable is foolish, that two champions of that size owe the sport a conversation. He has been saying it since the booing at Mugello. Both sides heard him. Neither side moved. People thought this was a grudge cooling. It was a grudge being institutionalized. Rossi retired at the end of 2021. The noise stopped, and the whole sport read that silence as healing. It was not healing. It was the fight moving out of the press conferences and into structures that outlive a career. Rossi does not need to say anything about Marquez anymore, because he no longer has to. He has a team, an academy, and a stable of riders whose careers he shapes and whose loyalty is not neutral. Marini's list is what that looks like from the outside. Nobody instructed Marini to leave Marquez out. That is precisely the point. It was absorbed, not ordered. And the bill lands on riders who had nothing to do with any of it. Di Giannantonio was 17 when Sepang happened. Ogura was 14. They now race inside a rivalry they never chose, on a grid where being generous about Marc Marquez in public still carries a cost. That is what an inherited feud actually does. It does not fade, it recruits. So here is where this lands. Everybody assumed time would do the work, that the two of them would soften into a handshake at some anniversary gala, and the sport would get its ending. Instead, the feud found a way to survive its own participants. One side stopped fighting and started managing careers. The other side stopped asking. And Marquez is choosing this moment to say it while he is fourth in a championship he is losing on entirely separate terms. 200 points, 40 behind Jorge Martin, 7th at Silverstone, and almost 10 seconds behind the winner. He does not have the luxury of a paddock quietly rooting for him, and he just confirmed he will not pretend otherwise. Make no mistake, that is the real news here, not the anger, the absence of it. The thing about closing a door flatly with no heat behind it is that it tells you the person stopped waiting a long time ago. Marquez is not hoping this gets fixed. That is not peace. That is a settlement. The question was never whether these two could shake hands. It was whether the sport would let the fight die when they finally did. So do you think Marc Marquez just ended this thing, or just made it permanent? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.